All right. So this will be episode 4 of Everybuddies Podcast, take 3, because we had 2 that we completely effed up.
One where we had the audio go bad.
Audio was trash. And then one where I hit the wrong button to record. So anyway, it was a lot of material in both. I want to say it took us over 3 hours to record each time, but we are not going to do that this time. We're going to record half. That way, if we F up, we don't lose more than a couple hours. And honestly, I don't think that people want to listen to a 3-hour episode anyway. Maybe somebody does, but I think it's a little excessive for the moment. What do you think?
I don't see it really as a bad thing. Someone can just watch it in parts, which is how I watch YouTube videos if they're more than 30 minutes long.
You just cut it in half?
So I'm watching a Better Call, and the way I watch that is while I'm waiting for something, I'll watch it for 10 minutes and then...
Have you watched that series before?
Yeah.
You've seen it all the way through before?
I have.
So why are you watching it again?
It's been a very long time since I watched it, and my understanding of it is, it helps me remember what it was.
So what did you like about it the first time through?
What do you mean? Oh, okay. The first time I watched like the first 3 seasons, and then it was months before I watched the last 3.
Okay.
So my remembering of the story was really fragmented.
Okay.
Which is why I'm watching it again, is so that I can remember the story.
Oh, okay. Why do you want to remember the story, though?
Why? What's the value in it if you don't?
In both Better Call Saul and what was the first one, Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
It's interesting because the protagonist becomes a bad guy and is originally not actually such a bad guy. In Better Call Saul, he was Slippin' Jimmy. He was all good, man. It's all good, man. It's all good, man.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of scamming people for a few bucks here and there. He and his friend were ripping people off, drunks. They were rolling drunks. And then he got in trouble because he gave somebody a Chicago sunroof.
Yeah, he wanted soft serve, so I gave him some soft serve.
And his brother came and saved him. And after that, he basically went straight. He became one of the good guys, right?
Yeah.
And then his brother fucks him over, and he says, forget it. I'm just going to go back to being Saul Goodman, right? Mm-hmm. In Breaking Bad, originally, he had made a bunch of money.
He didn't make a bunch of money.
He had set up his friend's company, set it for success, and then decided, I want to do actually something better for society with my life. And then his friend's company took off while he was working as a teacher.
That's not why he broke off from that company.
Why did he break off?
It's because he was dating the woman in it, and then the other guy that was in that company started dating her.
Oh. So he left behind all that money over a girl?
Yeah.
That ain't worth it. That's never...
It wasn't a real company yet. They weren't making fuck ton of money yet.
Okay. Okay, look. I get it. Jealousy is a thing. But, okay. Your pride don't make you rich.
That's actually the theme of the show.
Okay.
Is that he continuously fucks up and continuously chooses to make these destructive choices.
Okay, so here's the thing. You get mad over a woman, so you give up the opportunity to make millions of dollars because you're mad over a woman? Are you kidding me? You're mad over a romantic relationship?
Yeah, that his pride is his folly.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the whole...
But he was actually, it seemed like he was okay with being a teacher, right? The problem was that everybody treated him like crap. The school district treated him like crap. His students treated him like crap. His wife treated him like crap. His son treated him like crap. Hank treated him like crap. They all treated him like crap. If he had just been treated with respect and kindness and decency for the good things he was doing and the sacrifices he was making, he probably would have been okay with it.
Yeah.
You could say it's his pride, but everybody was treating him like shit.
Yeah. So he starts making the meth.
Tweak amphetamine.
Things immediately off the bat go bad. And he's got to kill Crazy Eight and Emilio, yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, they eventually get into their relationship with Tuco,
Yeah.
which is just bad luck. And then he eventually gets into this relationship with Gus Fring, and it's in that relationship that they really show this guy is the problem. Yeah, Tuco was an asshole, but he worked. Emilio and Crazy Eight, they just misunderstood. But with Gus Fring, he had a good thing. And before Gus Fring causes the death of this child, all he had to do was let go of Jesse, because Jesse had been massively problematic leading up to that point. All he had to do was let go of Jesse, and then he would have had a good thing. Let Gus fire him and fucking kill him.
Okay.
Or at least let him fire him.
But his whole thing, a lot of his thing with Jesse was he wanted someone he could control.
Yeah, someone who also liked him.
But
Yeah, Jesse, Gail liked him, but he wasn't happy with Gail. He wanted Jesse. So you're right, it was someone he could control.
the point I was going to make with both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad is that the wife is actually the woman in him. What's the girl's name? Better Call Saul, the lead?
They're both wives.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He does marry her. What's her name?
I forgot.
In Better Call Saul. The wives are actually, they are like kind of straight arrows
Yeah.
until all of a sudden they just say, oh, you know what?
Yeah, they're
This is
rocking with
fun, and
these
I want to
men.
be, I want in on it too. It's like in both of those, the woman is, I don't know if you want to say seduced by the fun and the money, and then goes along with it. But in the end,
When something major happens.
eventually when it goes too far, in both cases, the bad guy tries to rectify the wrong they've done. In Breaking Bad, Heisenberg saves Jesse and the white supremacists. White supremacists are like, there really isn't a whole lot redeemable about them as far as our culture is concerned. Like, if you ever want a villain, an out-and-out villain, because nobody really has any respect for those people at all. In Better Call Saul,
When he starts his new life, he tries to be behind Saul Goodman. As far as I could tell, he's the GM.
okay, all right. And what was it that made that fall apart? I know there were,
Somebody recognized him.
so that was it.
Somebody recognized him, and then he was like, oh shit, I gotta hit the button. And he called out the guy.
Uh-huh.
And the guy's, okay, I'll be by to pick you up. It's gonna be the same price as last time. And then Jimmy reflects and he's like, am I gonna spend multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to get relocated again? And then he tries to solve it himself.
Gotcha.
And that's part of the story where I don't remember what happens after that point, and I'm not to that point yet.
Okay. Okay. You know, what always throws me off is people who have those kind of underground cash businesses. Like, why don't they have a plan to leave the country? I would have a plan to leave the country. There was a guy in Colorado Springs where I grew up. There was this guy who owned all this land around Colorado Springs, Frank Aries. And when I was little, you drive outside the city and you were suddenly surrounded by just all this barbed wired off, fenced off land. And it just said Aries Properties on it. It had a ram for a logo. And basically, anybody who wanted to expand any new subdivision, they had to buy land from Frank Aries. When the savings and loan debacle happened, he had borrowed an F ton of money, a fuck ton of money from Silverado Savings and Loan. And what he was doing, what a lot of people were doing, was they would buy land on credit, use that land as collateral for another loan. Illegal, but these savings and loans were largely unregulated. So even though people were breaking the law, nobody was watching. And for 10 years, 15 years, beginning in the 70s up to the early 90s, you had people who were just using these savings loans to commit an enormous amount of fraud. And when it all collapsed, all these property values just started collapsing. And Congress, I believe it was in 86 or 87, had to allocate $300 billion to bail out these savings and loans. And the equivalent now would be like 1.5, 2 trillion. Can you imagine if Congress had to allocate $2 trillion to bail out a bunch of unregulated banks? It would be like if they allocated $2 trillion to bail out Bitcoin.
People who knew better.
Anyway, Frank Aries, it turned out that's what he had done. That was how he got all that land. He did not use a penny of his own money. It was all money that he had basically fraudulently obtained from all these savings and loans in Texas. As soon as the walls started closing in, he fucked off with the cash. He went to Argentina. He just said, I guess I'm living in Buenos Aires now. And that's what I don't understand, is why these people who are stacking up cash, why they don't have a plan. Why don't they have an exit plan?
That was the exit plan, was that guy at the vacuum shop.
Yeah, but the vacuum shop guy takes all your money. And he just puts you in a shack somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
He did that with Walt because Walt was too well known.
But
why Walt stayed in the country, I don't know.
But your exit plan really is to go freaking work at Cinnabon? You know what I mean?
That was his plan? Walt had intended on getting back in the game. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. I see. But I guess the reality is, and this is the reality, most people who engage in crime to make money never make any fucking money. You hear about these fraudulent, I've talked to people who ripped off unemployment or ripped off disability, and they managed to fraudulently scam off like $5,000. Like, you're committing a felony and you're risking multiple years in prison, plus having to pay back 3 to 5 times whatever you took, plus fines on top of that, plus they're going to make you pay for that lawyer. Even if they give you a public defender, if you're found guilty, you got to get a bill for that public defender. So you're going to spend 2 to 5 years in the clink, plus probation, where you're going to be paying fines for probation. You know what I mean? All total, that $5,000 is going to cost you like $100,000. And you're doing all this. You're coming up with this whole scheme for just this minuscule amount of money. You could put that time into handing Whoppers out through the drive-through window and you'd make more money.
Okay.
So that's the reality of it. Whether you're looking at drug dealers, people who are, whether it's the guy who's selling crack on the corner or the guy who's selling Decadurabolin in the locker room, they ain't making any money. At best, they're making enough to pay for their own addiction. There's just so few people who are actually making any money. And when you talk about the big earners, they're barely making 6 figures. And they make up maybe 1% of the people who are involved in any of this crime. So I'm just like, that you'll see on TV, like there were these guys in, well, I didn't see this on TV, I read it on Google News. There were these guys, there was this ring of people who were basically shoplifting from Home Depot and then selling the stuff on eBay. And what they would do is they'd shoplift blades and electrical equipment, like stuff that's small but worth $100.
All right.
And they were eBaying it. And it was like all these people shoplifting all this stuff. Over a period of 5 years, 9 people, they made $755,000. That was what they sold it for. And the California State Patrol just basically stood them all. And the guy who was the ringleader, who I assume was making all the money, he's looking at like 22 years in prison for all this. And the reality is, he probably made half that, $5K, over 3 years. Let's assume he made half of it. That means the other 8 people were splitting $125K a year. Like, that's barely even $15,000 a piece. Can you imagine you're going to commit all this shoplifting for the equivalent of $7 an hour?
Yeah.
Like, how stupid do you have to be?
I don't know, dude. I don't do that shit.
So people always think when they hear about this crime that they're going to make all this money or that they're going to be the ringleader or whatever, but you're not. You're never going to make any money, and you're just going to go to prison,
Eventually, yeah.
and you're going to look like an idiot. Okay. Anyway.
We're chasing a dream, dude. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I guess that's what I wonder about in all these shows. Why, at least in the shows, the person never has a plan to just vanish into the ether.
They had a
It
plan.
was a bad plan. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know why either of them would want to stay in the country.
So what do you like about Better Call Saul the second time through, now that you're watching it again?
I'm understanding his motivations a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm enjoying Jimmy's descent into becoming Saul Goodman.
Okay.
And also I like Mike's character arc.
Okay.
Because Mike in Better Call Saul is much more compassionate than Mike is in Breaking Bad.
Sure.
And it shows why he's an asshole in Breaking Bad.
When I watched Better Call Saul, because they made it after they made Breaking
Yeah.
Bad. And it's funny because Mike and Tuco and all those, they're all older in Better Call Saul. They're all significantly older. But in reality, in the story, they were supposed to be younger.
Yeah. Mike's always been old. What are you to do, dude? The Breaking Bad story's over. What are we going to do? Follow Jesse in Alaska? El Camino?
Yeah, they did make a
Yeah, the
movie with him.
Yeah. That's where they show Jesse getting his freedom, and the same guy, the vacuum store guy, takes him out to Alaska, and that's where he lives.
Funny that he needed the vacuum store guy to take him to Alaska. He could have just drove there, unless he had a DUI.
Can't go through. And then, yeah, if you're assuming he's stopping at the border, then yeah, he's going to get caught at the border.
Anyway,
Yeah, dude, let's get to the comments.
yeah. Oh, the comments. Right. Yeah, I forgot. Comments since the last. Let me see. God, that dog is so loud. Okay. So here's the first one. And this is where we were talking about the origin of domestic cats
Okay.
in the Fertile Crescent. Alexander Popov, 5060. That is some mainstream BS about farming. Think about long enough and you will see it too. How can anyone invent farming everywhere all at once? You might say the climate allowed it, but that doesn't make too much sense because then we would have one origin of farming. But we have farming all over the world with all different kinds of plants being farmed, corn, wheat, rice, beans, and so on. Farming has been around for as long as humans have been around. And in the last 300,000 years, how many times did we have tempered conditions? 4, maybe 5, and for thousands of years at a time? Plus, if we look at genetics of some of those farm plants, something doesn't add up. Some of those plants have been genetically modified 40 to 60,000 years ago, like buckwheat. I've been doing research most of my life, and we are fed a bunch of lies about our history, about our ancestors. In the next 20 to 30 years, everything will change like it often does, and we will rewrite history as we know it now. Just please remember this comment when it actually happens. Question everything, believe nothing without thinking about it for a long while. Thank you. Thoughts on that?
I think that's obviously I haven't researched and found the evidence for that.
For farming having been around for 300,000 years.
But what I was talking about is when cats came around, right? It was about 13,000 years ago when we started farming, maybe this time.
Okay. As far as I've read and listened to, you didn't have irrigated agriculture until around 3000 BC. And prior to that, you did have settlements, but those settlements were based more around having consistent food in an area, not on the basis of actually digging canals and things like that. So when he says that we have different plants being farmed all over the world, corn, wheat, rice, beans, and so on, I'm not aware of that ever having happened prior to irrigation within Mesopotamia and China.
He's He's a horror show.
He definitely has a non-mainstream position here. But I would say
It's important to have contrarian ideas.
everything we believe now was at one point a contrarian idea, like you say. Christianity was once a contrarian idea. The belief that the earth goes around the sun was a contrarian idea. Even if you take what we accept as mathematical facts now, the theorem was a contrarian idea. So it's important to have them. And more importantly, it's important not to rip on people for having a different idea. Although it seems like it's a lot of people's instinct to do that.
It doesn't upset me that he challenges the idea that farming existed beyond 13,000 years ago. That's not what I've read, and I haven't done any of my own research.
So I think it's highly unlikely that you had any kind of systematic agriculture prior to that. However, I've read about how anthropologists have noted that like modern hunter-gatherers, such as like Australian Aborigines, like they'll eat a specific berry or a specific tuber, and then they'll instead of eating the whole thing, they'll replant the tuber or replant seeds like in that same area. And that way, when they nomadically return to that area, like in another, like the next year or the next season, they'll find more of that particular food.
Okay.
I guess you would call that being a horticulturalist, not so much agriculture as strategic gathering. I don't know what you would call that.
Okay.
But that isn't the same as husbanding plants. That's not the same as farming.
Okay. I kind of agree with you. I also, like, how do you really define that? Where do you cut the line? Because if you have a settlement around a riverbank that plants grow, that's farming.
Especially if you have flooding, if you have annual flooding.
So that's for sure. But before that point, at what point is it a settlement? At what point is that really farming?
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, neither of us are experts on that.
No.
But anyway, if in the next 20 to 30 years, if everything changes and
We'll remember this comment.
yeah, and hopefully we'll be alive to see it.
Yeah.
All right. So our next comment, talking about domesticated cats, from wild to domesticated. And it says, this is Caitlin Clausen, 809. Rodents become a problem very vast, even if you just go and bush camp for the summer. Very vast.
I think that's a typo. I think she meant very fast.
Okay.
And I believe it.
It works either way.
Yeah. Works either way.
Yeah. A vast, fast problem.
Yes.
Yeah, rodents are, so Star Trek, the original series, The Trouble with Tribbles.
Okay.
The Tribbles were just these little cute furry things that they just kind of showed up. Somebody brought them on board the ship and they got into the food stores and they just were eating everything.
Okay.
And Dr. McCoy makes the point that, yeah, these things are basically born pregnant as far as I can tell. And they just keep eating and reproducing and eating and reproducing. And that's what rodents do. They reproduce very fast.
Okay.
And in The Trouble with Tribbles, the way they got rid of them was they beamed them all onto a Klingon ship.
I love that.
Yes. The Klingons hated them, but they were these cute, they'd be like your friend, but then they'd eat all your food. Just like a real baby. But I think mice and rats, they reach reproductive maturity at 4 weeks.
Okay.
So you can literally have another generation of rodents like every 2 months. And they can just have litter after litter. So
That's off the chain, which kind of makes sense why they'll end up eating their offspring if there's too much scarcity.
right. Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, they don't care. They're very K-type. K-type? Yeah, K-type. R is investment and K is population, I believe. I once read that if you were to take all the honeybees on Earth and whittle it down to just a couple of hives, you would be able to repopulate all the honeybees in less than a year. That's how fast they lay eggs. That's how fast they can produce new hives. The limit is on how quickly they can actually migrate.
We had those wasps move in the backyard. One day they weren't there, and then we showed up the next, and there was a hole. They had dragged a bunch of comb up to the hole, and it had taken them less than a day to hole up there.
It's too bad we had to get rid of them. If only we weren't selling this house. We could have just let
Yeah,
them,
they were nice enough.
just let them take over that little spot.
They don't stay after the winter.
Really?
Yeah.
That really is a shame. If we had tried to move them, I don't think they would have been amenable to that.
So when it's no longer baby making season, they chill out a lot, which is why I was able to go out there all the time.
Oh, okay.
But if it had been the middle of summer and we were going out there, they'd have...
All right. Next comment. Richard Schmitty, when we were talking about Nietzsche and his thought experiment. Eternal return. The idea that if you had to redo what you're doing now forever, redo it again, another life. Richard Schmitty said he has a face that's paying attention and then a face that's asleep. What do you think of that?
Hopefully he was watching our video to help himself fall asleep, but maybe he's saying we're boring.
Hey, whatever your reason for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Leave us a comment. You will be featured on our next episode. Anyway, have you heard about Splatitouille?
Yes, I have.
So this is the Chicago rat hole. And there was a guy who photographed it in 2024. And it's an imprint in a concrete slab of what appears to be a rat, or at least it's shaped like a Disney rat.
Yeah.
And it went viral. And people started showing up to pay their respects and tributes to
Splatitouille.
to Splatitouille. You'd see they left coins. Somebody left their estradiles in there. And then you can see on the right, it's like an entire...
Right.
Like
a whole vigil.
Yeah. And then they included in that was some injectable estradiol. Why estradiol, though? Why?
I believe that's gender reaffirming pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Or ladies who are going through menopause, like to help them not lose.
Do we know for sure what estradiol is used for?
I don't know exactly.
Let me real quick.
Let you look it up? Okay.
Oh, okay. You're right. It's just used for menopause as far as I can read.
Yeah. To help women retain bone density during menopause, or I guess relieve symptoms.
It prevents hot flashes, vaginal dryness, atrophy, and to prevent osteoporosis.
Yeah. Preventing that osteoporosis is extremely important.
All of these seems extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's true. Osteoporosis is, for elderly folks, it's deadly.
Okay.
Yeah. About 2/3 of osteoporosis cases are women. It's a myth that men aren't affected by it. Just because women are twice as likely to be affected by it doesn't mean that it's not a measurable risk for you as a man. And one of the best things you can do is just resistance training, weight training, or running uphill.
And then diet.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you experience a hip fracture, and for a long time it was thought, oh, people fall and they break their hip. It's actually the other way around. The femur breaks, like where it's attached. The ball of the femur, the neck coming off the ball of the femur breaks, and then the person falls because of the break. Your year-over-year chance, like your 1 year chance of survival is like 1/3. 2/3. Like that hip fracture is one of the worst things. It's like a harbinger.
Okay.
And a lot of people never leave the hospital.
Okay.
So preventing that osteoporosis is it's one of the most important things you can do in terms of aging. Obviously, the big three causes of death are heart attack, cancer, stroke. But osteoporosis is no frickin' joke.
All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Anyway, so many people kept showing up to pay tribute to Splatitouille. to the Chicago rat that if you go to the next slide, you can see that the city came out with a forklift and they took out that block of concrete.
Yeah, dude, leave it to the city of Chicago to displace someone from their home.
They desecrated his grave.
Yeah,
It's at City Hall now.
it's marginally better than throwing it away.
But it was disturbing the neighbors. Like it was
Oh.
that bad. Anyway, if you go up to the previous slide, there were some researchers who actually took the photo of Splatitui and measured all the dimensions. I don't think they did all that by hand. I think they used some machine learning or some kind of software to measure all the little dimensions. And they found that the probability it was a rat was something like 6 or 7%. And they found that it's somewhere in the 90th percentile, above 90% chance that it's either an eastern gray squirrel, a fox squirrel, or a muskrat. The most likely is the eastern gray squirrel.
In all of these graphs, it's on the outer edges.
The eastern gray squirrel?
Splatitui,
Yeah.
it's on the outer edges of all of these.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's what they came up with was the most likely. And given it is within the habitat of the squirrels, the muskrat is actually not likely because
Okay.
muskrats tend to prefer water and there just isn't any nearby ponds or anything like that there. But what they think is most likely is that a squirrel took a jump from a tree and landed in the soft concrete but didn't die.
It just pulled itself up and kept going.
But the thing is, the myth will almost certainly survive the research.
Yeah, dude, I don't think the researchers needed to find this out, man. I think we were better off not knowing that it probably wasn't a rat.
Who was it? I think it was Isaac Asimov? No. It might have been Isaac Asimov. He said, religion and science. No, it wasn't Isaac Asimov. I can't remember who it was. But basically, it was some scientist who said religion and science are non-overlapping magisteria. The two can't really tell us anything about the other. They explain different things.
Okay.
So what do you think of that idea?
As it applies to Splatitui?
Right. Because leaving gifts for the dead, that's a spiritual
Right.
practice.
Yeah, it seemed like it was kind of soft cement and then a rat was there and then it got steamrolled over.
Okay.
At least that's how it appears to me without the analysis.
But the analysis
Says it probably wasn't that. I think we were better off not knowing, dude.
and just being able to live in this, or at least you were.
Yeah.
So my question is,
Why can't both be true?
yeah, you could say that the dead rat that we're all paying tribute to, that's the kayfabe.
It's just a misrepresentation. It's represented by something that wasn't a dead.
Okay. So you could say there's a reality of what our lives are, and then there's a play that we all act in. There's the play I act in that I'm actually somebody who dresses along the corporate lines.
Which you don't, even when you go to work.
Even when I go to the office, if I can avoid it. But you better know that if I'm meeting with a customer, if I'm meeting with a client, like the hair goes back, I put on the company jacket, like they ain't gonna that I look like the guy who can find you reefer. So
He wants up so bad that there's no space for him.
so there's the reality and then there's the play.
Okay.
The other part is people look at what I wear and they think, how do I put this? A lot of people just think I'm a loser. They say, oh, well, this is a guy who doesn't take life seriously.
Okay.
But the truth is that all these people who are looking at me that way, I probably make 2 or 3 times what they do. So at least if you're going to count money as a measure, and if you want to count like things like health metrics, mine are pretty good. You could say that I'm actually pretty good at life. I just fit the image, the media-driven image of somebody who isn't good at life. The thing is, we have this play that goes on. It's all image, and it's all actually media-driven image. It's all created by, it's literally all just created by TV and movies.
You're just as qualified to tell a customer what they need with or without the corporate jacket.
The corporate uniform, yeah. But all that image, it's all driven by TV and movies, right? And I often tell people, here's a life hack you can use. If you want to get ahead, if you want to get what you want, regardless of what it is, and you need other people to give it to you, you don't have to like be so smart or develop all this empathy or whatever the phraseology of the day is, or know how to run game or whatever, right? Actually, all you have to do is take a TV or movie character who gets the thing you want and put on the same clothes they put on. And other people, especially if it's a well-known media character, other people who watch that, and if you pick someone who's well-known, there'll be a lot of people who watch it, they will automatically put you in the same category as that character, and they will treat you. You will get the same treatment that character gets. I'm just telling you, dude, the vast majority of people don't even think about it. They just do what the TV tells them. They think the way the TV tells them. They feel how the TV tells them to feel. And you'll get those outcomes. Yeah, that's a life hack you can use. Everybody who's watching, you can use. Play a TV character or play a movie character who gets the outcomes you want, and then watch the society around you give you those outcomes.
So I should start dressing like Saul.
Sure. But then here's the other part of it. You will never be allowed to take off that suit.
Okay.
When you start to take off that suit, it will so shatter people's idea of what the world should be that they will attack and blame you and hate you for it. People want you to get in that box and stay in that box forever and ever. They will do any and everything to keep you from being you.
Okay.
They want you in the box for good. There are videos on YouTube where you can look at Tupac from when he was 17. And he is this clean-cut, upper middle class guy. You can tell that he comes from a family with resources. He's gotten a good education. He's well cared for, right? He played in the Cosby Show, and he plays this clean-cut, upper middle class kid.
Okay.
And he was trying to make it as an actor. It's just like the guy who, Pitbull the rapper.
Okay.
You look at pictures of him before he became Pitbull, he's got the long hair and he wears the frumpy kind of, how do I put it, metrosexual millennial kind of suit. He looks the corduroy professor. And when he develops this Pitbull character where he's rapping about how it is to be a powerful rich guy and party all the time, when he shaves his head and puts on a suit, and it's a whole different image. And people have trouble when they look at one and the other and say, this is the same person.
And it makes the other character a lie, even though it's really not.
It's kayfabe. It's selling an image. People have trouble saying, oh, wait a second, this person's just playing a character. I want this so badly to be reality that I am actually going to reject this other image who is the real person. At their core, this is what that person is. They will reject that in favor of the image. And then what happened was Tupac played a character in a movie called Juice, who's like this disturbed, bad boy, criminal kind of character, right? Oh yeah, he's bad, but it's because life's hurt him and all this.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, all these ladies are like, oh, he's so attractive, he's so hot, and he's getting paid. So he got laid and he got paid. And so he built an entire persona around this. Now, I would actually argue that the persona contains a kernel of that person's core, but that persona is built. Personas are built. They're part of your creative expression. But then when Tupac wanted to get away from that character, when he wanted to get away from that Tupac persona, and actually, if you listen to a lot of his music, it's actually not, it's not like regular 90s gangster rap. It's actually pretty subversive. And he became very critical of the music industry for how his producers and everything else would do anything to keep him in that box. anything to make him stay that persona, that character, forever. And he created a second persona, Machiavelli, where he said that he was going to use that persona, that new rap persona, to expose the music industry.
Okay.
And a lot of people say that's ultimately why he was killed, that he was murdered by a killer for hire. And there's some evidence, it looks like he might very well have been, like with recent developments, that he was killed by more powerful people in the music industry who wanted him to shut up.
Okay.
That's an extreme example, and you are kind of getting into this area where it's conjecture, and it may be conspiracy theory even. But we could also say early in the 80s, you had the Iron Sheik on WWF, right? At the time, you had the Iranian hostage crisis going on, where the Ayatollah had captured a bunch of Americans from the embassy and was holding them hostage.
Okay.
Right? And this wrestling character comes out and he's waving the Iranian flag and saying, all you Americans suck and death to America and all that. And he was like one of the most hated people. The character was so successful. You can understand why. But then there was a photograph in a story where basically the guy who played the Iron Sheik is having lunch, a couple of good guys from WW, and people were like, what? How could they be having lunch together? They're supposed to hate each other. Like, people were so invested in the kayfabe that they couldn't accept that these people are actually, they're just actors. They're playing a role to entertain me. And my point is, you can go and you can say, I'm going to dress this way and I'm going to play this character. I'm going to play this TV or movie character. I'm going to fit myself into this archetype so that other people will translate me as fitting this archetype. And then I will get the money. I will get the rewards. I will get the women. I will get whatever it is you want. And over time, you'll get a lot of that. But you'll never be allowed out of it. People will hate you as soon as you start to step out of it.
Okay.
So my thing is, I just fit into it the minimum necessary to keep my job and make the money I need to make. And beyond that, I ain't going to do it. And if people don't like me or people want to say I'm a loser or say I'm the kind of person who knows where to get them reefer, fine. They can say that. They have the right to think that way. They have the right to not think that way, be brainwashed that way. But I'm just not going to pound myself into the box anymore, ever again, to assuage the brainwashing other people have chosen to take on.
Okay.
Anyway, that was my rant.
That said, I think it was better when we knew less about splatitude.
Fair enough. Do you want to go to the next thing?
Okay.
So yeah, tell me what you think of the phrase, age brings wisdom.
Okay. I think age only brings wisdom when you've thought about and you've continued to learn and challenge your own ideas as you get older.
What, in your opinion, is the best way to do that?
Keep learning.
Okay.
And then whenever you are moving on through your life, challenge the things that got you to the point where you are.
How important is it to, say, read versus listen to videos versus have your beliefs challenged by other people around you?
All of those things can either help or hinder you, right?
Okay.
Because if you're in an abusive relationship with someone and you're stuck, right? They might be challenging your ideas to leave.
Okay.
And from the inside, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like you should leave, but you really should leave, right? So it depends on how much credit you can give someone else. What you need to be able to do is look at everything that's out there and then decide what you make of it.
Okay.
Another thing is to just, if someone is trying to tell you not to keep learning, if they're telling you your ideas are all shit, and anytime you try to keep expanding your horizons and someone's telling you need to hate these kinds of people, or you need to stay here or keep that stupid ass job that keeps fucking you over, right? You need to learn who to ignore and what pieces of advice to take. Because if that's your only job, it's the only job you're going to have for now, maybe you need to keep that job.
Sure. Yeah, we've all.
But you got to have an exit strategy. You got to be trying, you got to be applying. And if someone's telling you not to try to escape a shit situation for yourself, you need to reassess that relationship. You need to look at getting away from that relationship. But that said, more so what I was trying to say is you can get locked in a line of thinking, gotten you to the point where you are, but that ain't necessarily going to help you stay there or help you get to the next thing.
Yeah. So the things that get you from A to B won't necessarily get you from B to C.
Also, I think a lot of the wisdom that old people have, the older you get, it suggests the less risk you've taken to that point. And that ain't a jab at anyone who takes care of themselves and avoids death so they can make it into their 90s or their 80s. But you need to ask yourself, as someone taking advice from these older, wiser people, is their life the kind of life you want to live?
So don't just take their advice, listen to their whole story. That actually can become very time consuming.
You have to take everything into account, though. You can't just accept what they have to say at face value. You have to have the context and how you understand that context without being reductionist to them.
When people say age brings wisdom, what really crystallized this for me is in 2009, when I had so I had originally signed up for Facebook like in 06 or 07. And it was just a thing. And I was like, oh, this might be interesting. And I put my name and a picture of me on there. I didn't even put my real name. And anyway, a bunch of people, when Facebook developed their feed, like at first when you went on there, it was just kind of, you had a page. It was like having a page, like a blog page.
Okay.
It didn't bring you any kind of traffic or anything like that. And it was actually when Facebook invented the feed. So when you'd log in and you'd go to their page, you would get this feed of all the people, all your friends, everybody you were connected to,
okay,
right? And then pages you followed. And you would get this chronological feed of what people were saying. And that actually made Facebook, it vaulted it from being just like a thing that was out there to this super popular site. And as time went on, they changed it from being you see this stuff to you'll see the stuff that people are most reacting to. The things of the people you follow that are getting the most reaction. And then they changed it again to where you don't even see the fucking people you follow. You just see whatever they think you'll react to. Whatever the algorithm is determined will get you to linger on the page and become emotionally invested in. And Jerome Lanier, what he points out is the algorithms actually found that the fastest way to get reaction and the fastest way to get engagement is actually to irritate people, not to show them positive things. One thing he points out is that positive things over time, positive things actually have more of an impact on your behavior, more on your propensity to buy, like over time. But the algorithm doesn't have time. The algorithm doesn't think in years. It thinks in moments. I would say actually that's a reflection of basically of Wall Street. Wall Street is fixated on quarterly returns. If you went back up to the 1980s and even up to halfway through the 90s, the annual reports were always what was considered important. Corporations made quarterly reports, but it was the annual. It was what does it look like at the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year. That was the most important thing. But now the annual report is just one more quarterly report.
Plus, the thing is, even with an annual report, if you're a massive company, like the year by year ain't even that important.
What's important?
Not the individual year. I'm saying a span of 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you're investing for your retirement, you're going to put that money in there and you're going to forget about it for a very long time. for decades. In fact, you might even keel over, and then your descendants receive it, and they may not look at it for decades. So it could be 50, 60, 70 years. So you don't really care at all how those companies do year to year. You care how they do decade to decade. But Wall Street cares this quarter.
Yeah, they care about today.
And so the algorithms have to say, how do we push product today? 2 weeks from now, how do we get cash money in the company's pocket immediately? And that was how a lot of this stuff with Facebook came to be a problem, is that they just started saying, we're going to collect and sell data so we can get that money right away, which is actually more beneficial. For Facebook to have their own internal marketing network where you are buying ads from Facebook to reach people who are only reachable within Facebook, that ad revenue that they could sell? Or is it better for them to make money by just selling all that data so that any advertiser, any marketer can take that data and use it to access you on other platforms? Over time, my conjecture is they would probably make more money by keeping the data. But they need to make that money right away. They need to get assets right away, dollars, liquidity, immediately, in order to appease their shareholders.
Okay.
Who want it right away. So I would argue...
Who don't do anything with it anyway, by the way.
What do you mean?
They don't spend that money. They just keep that fucking money.
And then they borrow against it. So if you take, for example, like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they don't spend that money. Elon Musk just got voted to have the possibility of having a $1 trillion compensation package from Tesla, which is really just going to be a whole fuck ton of Tesla stock that's going to be issued and given to him. But he's never going to sell it. He borrows against it. And these banks, they take that stock as collateral. They loan money on the stock. They loan money using the stock as collateral. They charge interest on that. It's relatively low interest rate. And then it's less, I guarantee it's less than you'd pay for a mortgage. And then because it's a loan, he never pays taxes on that. Takes a big enough loan to make interest payments. And then the thing is, these loans amount to billions and billions of dollars. So you have these banks that are holding these loans that are worth billions and billions of dollars. And then if that stock value goes down, that person just keeps crowding more stock to use as collateral. And if that stock collapses, the value of those loans now collapses to zero. So that bank has now lost billions of dollars in assets. So now the bank is itself insolvent. That bank is out of billions of dollars. So now that bank is going to have to go get those assets. They're going to have to go borrow from the Federal Reserve or find a whole ton of other people to put money in, a whole ton of other savers. Somebody is going to have to recapitalize that bank, basically. And if you're talking about billions of dollars, that's systemic risk. And so the federal government will wind up recapitalizing that bank. So these loans that these super wealthy people take out, this stock value, this compensation they get, not only is it untaxed, but those of us who do pay taxes are ultimately on the hook for it. We are ultimately the guarantors of those loans. Think about that. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
like, how bad does that make you just want to say, I'm not going to believe in this stuff. I will put on the face I have to put on to be able to survive in this.
Okay.
But it will never get my loyalty. It will never get my faith.
It doesn't deserve it. It fucks the common man at every corner.
The thing to do would just be to say, tax those loans as income. As soon as you tax those loans as income, then you're just saying, Any compensation you get is the same as income. Or you say that stock compensation is income. It's taxed as income.
But they make the rules, dude.
Okay. All right. Fair. Anyway, this study, that was a big, long diatribe. This study, what they did was they said, at what age does intelligence peak? And it's known that fluid intelligence peaks in your early 20s.
Okay.
Even at age 18. Your fluid intelligence peaks, which basically is described as your ability to switch between tasks, to learn new things quickly, have faster memory. That all peaks like when you're 18, 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
But then when you talk about things like crystallized intelligence, which is like your knowledge, your wisdom, right? They say that peaks more in your 50s. I read a study once that said strategic thinking peaks in your 50s.
Okay.
So on that first graph, you can see that you have, if you look on that top, the left panel on the top right, I believe it has memory and speed and what else does it have?
Oh, reasoning, vocabulary, memory, speed, WCAC.
Right. And WCAC is the weighted average. Vocabulary keeps growing your whole life.
Okay.
It looks like it
65.
levels off at 65. Right.
Yeah, and then it starts going down.
Okay. And all the others, it looks like they just kind of keep going down. But the weighted average, they show it creeps down a little through your 20s and then goes up just a little bit through middle age.
Yeah.
And then on the next panel, on the panel to the right of that, what does it have?
E, ES, O, A, C, WPC.
Okay, so those are personality traits.
Okay.
Right? So you have extroversion, emotional stability, conscientiousness. Let me remember what the other ones are. Openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness,
Yeah.
and then in this case they used emotional stability. Usually the acronym is OCEAN and is for neuroticism, but emotional stability is the opposite of neuroticism, which is, it's basically how prone you are to depression, anxiety, and anger.
Okay.
So I believe they're showing that emotional stability just keeps going up and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research that shows that psychological well-being actually peaks at 82.
Yeah. And our life expectancies are 79.
77, yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. So chances are we won't live to see peak happiness. I heard an interview, this was like 10 years ago, where they were talking to an older person where they said, hey, have you heard that happiness peaks in your 80s? And the guy was like, yeah, my happiness has peaked in my 80s. And they actually found it's because what they determined from these interviews, and this was not like a formal study, but it was a serious gathering of data. And what they determined was that it's actually that your expectations of life go down.
Okay.
Because this guy they interviewed was like, yeah, when I was younger, I was like, oh, I need to get all this done. I hope all these things happen today. Today, I'm just like, oh, thank God for one more sunrise. So a lot of that could just be that you just become so grateful for what you have, just so happy to be able to watch the sunrise and be able to go for a walk.
I think it was McPond Smith in 2022 that said sailors needed to reduce their standards.
What was that in response to?
That was in response to sailors killing themselves on carriers. Yeah. That's what he said.
How big of a problem was that?
Suicide in the Navy is pretty bad.
Really? How frequently are we talking about?
I actually saw a decent reduction while I was in, but our ship was pulling out to do a 2-week debt. I don't even think it was for a full 2 weeks. I think it was more like 10 days. And as they're pulling out that night, someone inside the hangar bay went ahead and hung themselves.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah, and got found in the morning.
No way. How old was this person?
Military age, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so too young.
Yeah.
Way too young. There's no good age for that to happen. But,
Yeah.
man.
As Crip Max says, don't kill yourself.
Okay.
Don't commit suicide.
But anyway, there's been some improvement, you
Yeah,
said?
I've noticed some improvement. has slowed down. Because when I first got in, you were constantly hearing about people killing themselves. And then as I got to the end, there was less suicides
Okay.
across the fleet.
I haven't looked at the stats lately, but as far as I can tell, suicides just among men in general have been just getting worse. The suicide rate has been just getting worse for 25 years.
Really?
Like rates of suicide and drug overdose, what would have been labeled some despair.
They've just gotten better at hiding it.
That's a terrible thought.
But yeah. So he's not quoted exactly as saying they need to lower their expectations. He said something more along the lines of they should have managed their expectations coming here. But it's not the official interview that people are quoting. It's when behind closed doors, what he said.
Okay, so nobody knows for sure.
That he straight up said, yeah, they need to lower their expectations.
Okay.
But yeah, it was in a response of a string of suicides on one of the carriers.
Okay. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, though, if you have some people who are doing themselves in.
Everyone else's quality of life has got to be dog shit.
Right. Any improvement you could make to reduce those suicides is, by extension, you're having to improve everybody else's life, everybody else's well-being.
Right. Yeah. You can't reduce police deaths only for African Americans. You can only reduce deaths in general by police.
Because anything that helps the most vulnerable, by its very nature, is going to help everybody up the pyramid. And that's actually why I'm always in favor of things that help the disabled or help folks who, how do I put it, who folks of races who are that don't have it very well. Because in the end, that's going to help me. Even if I don't get tangential benefits from the policy itself, that's another set of customers.
Yep. They spend more money, you reap benefits from someone spending more money.
Yeah, even if just the general economy grows, my stock values go up. So to be honest, I don't understand the opposition a lot of people have.
I can tell you, McPun Smith in that moment was deflecting responsibility.
Okay, sure.
So McPun is Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy.
Okay, sure.
So he's, as far as active duty goes, he can be considered like number 3.
Okay, gotcha.
You would have Chief of Naval Operations, Chief of Naval Personnel, and then McPun Smith.
Okay.
Which he ain't the McPun no more.
Oh, sure. Whenever a new president comes in,
it's policies that get applied across these ships.
Okay.
It's up to the COs there to apply those policies. And then obviously they might throw their own spin on things, but they draw the baseline.
Okay.
And his baseline was shit. And then people reacted in kind by fucking killing themselves.
Oh, woof. Dude.
And then he was pulled into an interview about it.
Ah, I see.
Where he had to make answers on it. He had to explain what was going on.
Okay.
And what he said was reduce your expectations.
So Sarah Payne, she's a professor at the Army War College. And she talks a lot about grand strategy. And she talks an awful lot about Mao and Hitler and Stalin. But one thing she points out is that the reason dictatorships don't work, the reason they always fail, they always flunk out, the reason authoritarianism in the end always fails its people, is because it's basic human nature to be resistant to learning, to be resistant to changing your ways. So most people, they won't learn. They won't say, oh, wow, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, I messed that up. No, they double down. Even if, and I get, we're in a litigious society. People get sued all the time. So, yeah, you may be better off at least putting up the front of saying, oh, yeah, I did nothing wrong, because then you won't get sued.
Right.
But in private, you can then say, man, I effed that up. I need to.
The federal government writes the rules, and one of the federal government's rules is you basically can't sue the federal government.
It's hard to. Yeah, no, he would have not been suable for those policies. He wouldn't have been. there's no way he would have gotten sued as a policymaker. There would have been no successful lawsuit on him. But even still, his instinct was to double down. His instinct was to say, they're the ones who are thinking about it the wrong way. And that's, let's be straight up, that's what destroyed Nazi Germany. One thing Sarah Payne points out is she had said if Hitler had stopped after marching into Munich and just taking Czechoslovakia, he would have been remembered as one of the most powerful, great leaders that Germany ever had. A huge a-hole. But Germany actually would have come out of his, whatever you want to call it, reign or rule or whatever, more powerful than it came in. The thing is, his racial policies were so onerous, were so horrible, they were so awful. You can't just off entire groups of people without weakening your own self. If nothing else, because when you take complex systems, a nation state is a very complex system. The bigger variety of people, the wider array of experience and expertise, the more different ways you have of thinking that are available to you, the better you're going to be. Your team, your group, your country is going to be at solving problems. You know, there's a reason why the U.S. is like so good at creating new companies and going from 0 to 1, basically with creating and implementing new technology.
Okay.
Right? And it's because of this huge variety of people we have and this huge number of immigrants who come in. So that internally would have weakened Germany, but in terms of taking territory, right? But the thing is, he could not stop. His ideology would not let him stop. And that's what destroyed Germany completely. If you take Mao Zedong, he was this brilliant military commander who took all of China.
Okay.
Like, he did what nobody else could do. Like, for hundreds of years, nobody else could do, which was basically take control of all of China militarily and gain the mandate of heaven. But the thing is, after he had taken power, after he had taken all that, he couldn't stop. It still wasn't good enough. He still had to get the peasants to destroy his enemies. And then after he had been after he was the emeritus leader of China, he was no longer necessary for running the country. And in fact, he was a problem for it. He wanted power back so bad that he reignited, he basically got all these students with the whole, I can't remember if it was the Cultural Revolution or which thing it was, but basically in the 70s, he got all these students to basically say, oh, we need Mao back, and start murdering their professors and people who had taken power in towns, basically the political enemies of Mao or the ideological enemies of Mao. He was so bound and determined to keep power, and he could not just say, you know what, these other people are doing it better than me. He had to keep doubling down. And Sarah Payne points out, that's why you need to have elections.
Another thing I want to build off of that is Pete had said with his recent calling all the generals and telling them how the military is going to be now. 2 policies that came out of that were stricter physical PT standards for combatants and non-combatants, and stricter policies around shaving. No more medical exemptions for shaving. The final step in a military member that cannot shave their face is ejection from the military.
Good Lord.
These PT standards, they tanked while I was in.
That's probably
coming off the heels of COVID. And that wasn't a good thing. But the reason I believe they did that was because a lot of these places, a lot of these units, they stopped providing work time, to go and do PT.
Okay. Is it just because they were having trouble recruiting?
They can't squeeze enough out of people in yet.
So manpower shortage.
Yes.
Okay.
So you had a huge jump in personnel when COVID happened.
Uh-huh.
You had a bunch of recruiting right after the very worst of COVID got over towards the end of 2020.
Sure.
You had a massive jump in recruiting because employment sucked at that time.
Okay.
But then as soon as quarantines got lifted and
2021.
You had a huge spike in the economy
Oh,
and
yeah.
a huge drop in recruiting. There are
You
better
could-
jobs than being in the military.
You could hardly walk down the street without being offered a job in 2021. It was out of control. Yeah.
So, anyways, we had this huge jump, and actually, while I was in, they basically had a point where they were like, anyone who wants out, we'll make it easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't come out and outright say that.
Even in the midst of this manpower shortage.
When you had that huge spike in recruiting, they operate by year groups. They operate by like years that people went to boot camp or when they joined.
Okay.
And there was too many people in that 2020 year group.
Okay.
But then there was basically nobody in the 21, 22 year group.
Okay.
And anyway, their reaction to that was to make it easier for people to stay in.
Okay.
And they needed to squeeze more work out of people.
Okay.
So they stopped doing group PT basically altogether, at least in the community I was in, naval aviation.
And it was just because they didn't want to allocate the time.
If they allocated the time, that means we spent less time on planes.
Okay.
And so basically it was up to the commander's discretion on whether or not to hold you to those standards.
Okay.
And so I knew people who were morbidly obese, like in the Navy. Yeah, like incredibly obese.
So
5'11", 350
oh, are
kind
you
of stuff.
serious?
Yeah.
Okay. Ouch.
Yeah, and they were letting these guys promote. They were letting them stay in.
Okay.
And I don't think they should have ever done that. But they lowered the PT standards for a reason. It was a reaction to recruitment levels being so fucking low. And the shaving standards, with it being, I'll tell you right now, the majority of people who hold those no-shave exemptions, those shaving exemptions, are African-American males.
Okay.
So revoking medical exemption for shaming is all but directly impacts black males. You are basically telling a lot of black males you are not welcome here. And those PT standards, right? They've increased the running standards and they have to strictly enforce them now. And I don't really think is too bad of a fate. That targets a lot of women.
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. When you're talking about endurance running, women are every bit as good at it. So women tend to have a shorter stride than men because they have smaller bodies.
Right.
So they tend to be slower because they have shorter legs.
I'm talking
Right.
about like the push-ups and the pull-ups and
Oh, okay.
the upper body portions for sure.
Okay. But I was going to say, yeah, it's harder for a woman to do a pull-up, but most men can't do a pull-up.
Yeah, and there wasn't pull-ups in my community.
Okay.
But a lot of these policies that they're enacting target women and black people.
You think that's deliberate?
Yeah.
Or do you think this is just how it's going to be and we don't give a rat's ass how it affects these other groups?
If you think about when Pete Hegseth entered the great years of the military, it was basically all white men,
Okay.
you know?
What he calls the great years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he wants to get back to that point. Also, another thing is,
It wouldn't surprise me. He's trash, dude.
I
There's no other way
understand
to
that,
say
but they have totalitarian control over the military.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Pete and Donald Trump.
They think they do. The thing is, Pete and Donald Trump, they're around for 4 years.
It's the place where they can have the fastest and harshest enactment to any of the
Where
fucking policies.
okay, so they can have a faster, bigger impact. But then the thing is, they're still going to run up against inertia.
Yeah. No, none of those generals agreed with.
Yeah, no, I saw the whole speech. I didn't watch the whole. I'm sorry, I don't have the patience to listen to that bullshit. But all those high commanders, they all just sat there like stone face.
Yeah, they were taking orders. That's all they were. Like, that's how you take orders from someone that you fucking hate, dude.
Okay.
You just sit there and you listen and you go, okay.
Yeah, here's part of there's a couple problems that Whiskey Pete and Donald Trump are going to have. First of all, the military is much more technological, so it depends more on brain power.
Right.
And the thing is, when you depend on brain power, anybody who has intelligence and some ambition is going to have their own ideas. When I meet people and I say, I want to talk to people who are intelligent, they're going to have thought through like their own political beliefs, their own religious beliefs, their own beliefs about, they're going to have come to their own conclusions about these things. And those conclusions are not going to be the same as mine. There is at least going to be several areas where we just flat out don't agree.
Okay.
And so if you expect everybody to just conform to your way of seeing things, you are inherently going to get people who are less ambitious and less intelligent.
And that's not what the military needs. Right.
Yeah, they need people who are, and that means you need a bigger variety of people.
You need to accept all walks of life. And the other thing is, they don't pay enough to be this fucking picky. At the end there, so on deployments for Navy ships, most of the time, at least for little shitlins like me, it's 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Sure.
And people will say, yeah, there's a lot of ass time or there's a lot of downtime within that. There has to be. You can't.
Sure.
You can't. What happens when people are working that entire time is they fucking kill themselves.
Okay. That's
Oh, no.
terrible. Yeah.
Oh, my mic's been pointing towards my chest this entire time.
No, I that's all right. I've checked the volume a few times and you seem to be okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Anyway, at 12 to 14 hours a day, I was getting paid I believe it was 50 a year after taxes, 50, 55, which is great at age 20. I had good health care, good dental at age 20 with 55 grand a year, but that, not for no 90 hours a week, dude.
Yeah, that's true. So the thing is, if they're going to have these higher PT standards, they need to allocate time.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not doing that.
They're just saying,
You're going to figure it out. And you should take care of your health anyway.
yeah,
But the fact of the matter is the people that exist right now within these systems, ripping the Band-Aid like that is going to have massive after effects that really just hurt our military. And whether you believe the U.S. needs to have the strongest military in the world,
okay, so I actually believe in American hegemony, and I am unapologetic about this.
okay,
I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase that the United States is the best, most powerful force for good in the world.
and the thing is, what we use our massive military for is to keep trade open.
What we use it for.
It makes moving commodities less risky and cheap for the
Right.
whole world.
The U.S. has been called the arsenal of democracy.
Okay.
Like the Ukrainians, the reason they still have a country is because the Biden administration correctly sent them weapons.
Okay.
Lots and lots. So did all the other NATO countries. Now, the other NATO countries have picked up a lot more as U.S. aid has gone down slightly. But you know what? They're still getting a lot of weaponry from us, as they should. There are ways in which the arsenal of democracy has been terribly misused. The things that are going on in Gaza right now, it's way too much. It's beyond what made any sense. And it was beyond what made any sense a long time ago. Continuing to sign off on that shit was a major mistake Biden made. But that said, the American hegemony has done more good for the world. More good than bad, and it's not even close. And I'm not gonna, I know that there's gonna be people who come hard at me for that, but you know what? I ain't backing down from that position.
Anyone who has that kind of power is going to fucking misuse it.
Yeah, oh yeah, stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah.
There have been major mistakes. There have been major mistakes in this country. Jim Crow, basically the genocide of indigenous people. Unfortunately, I didn't get to have any say. I wasn't there to try to help put a stop to any of that. And yes, absolutely, when you talk about reparations, yes, our government has a duty to try to make that right, to try to make it good for the descendants of the survivors. But at least in the post-World War II period, as a country, we've done far more good than bad.
Okay.
And when you talk about the end of slavery and the end of Jim Crow, a lot of people gave up an awful lot. A lot of people died. A lot of people who weren't even directly impacted by it.
He wants that one, dude. He just wants that one. If he chose the thick HDMI, it'd be whatever.
He's just gonna have to go downstairs.
Come here. Come here.
That's a good boy. I know. It ain't right, it ain't fair.
What happens is he takes a piss in his litter box and then he gets the pissies, zoomies.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So anyway, I'm just saying, a lot of people made serious sacrifices to end those things.
Okay.
And we're all better off, and we all have better lives because of those sacrifices they made.
Shortly. Oh, he totally closed it, or he minimized it. Okay. All right. Sorry, buddy.
Come here, dude. Come here, old man. So, if you're going to say that America is a net negative for the world, you're also saying that the folks who worked and sacrificed and died to try to end those things, to try to improve those things, that their sacrifices weren't really meaningful. When we're sitting here getting the benefits of those sacrifices.
And I think I agree with you that the United States military, it should be big and it should be the single most powerful force for good. But that's when presidents leave when they're supposed to fucking leave.
What do you mean?
We, the people, get to continuously vote for our presidents and our congressmen and our Senate. Then I believe the military will continue to be a force for good. But as soon as we get someone who stays in beyond those two terms, or Congress and Senate, congressmen and senators, congressmen and congresswomen that do not fucking leave,
When they're voted out.
then the U.S. entirely cannot be, as a whole, cannot be trusted by the global community.
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree with that. If we lose our ability to vote and we lose our ability to speak out, like if we lose First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, if we lose our Bill of Rights, then yes, nothing America does is really valuable to the world anymore. Man, that's when we know we're really yapping.
Yeah, dude. We need to get to the next slide.
Yeah. So they also talked about what they called life skills or life intelligence.
Okay.
And you can see on there where they talk about sunk cost resistance, financial literacy. What else do they have on there? Should be in the second panel.
Emotional intelligence, financial literacy, moral reasoning, sunk cost resistance.
And those appear to peak in midlife. Like they start out.
So everything except emotional intelligence goes up.
Okay. Emotional intelligence goes down.
Yeah, emotional intelligence peaks around 40 and then slips down from there.
Is there anything that just starts out high and then goes down?
No.
No. So all of those they keep going up throughout life?
Yeah, so financial literacy, moral reasoning, and sunk cost resistance. Financial literacy drops off after 75.
Okay.
But at that point,
What's it matter anyway?
yeah.
At that point, whatever money you have, that's for you to just have fun with.
Hopefully you're still having fun at that point.
People I've talked to tell me, people I talk to who are that age, who are over 60, they tell me if you get to age 60 and you have your health and you have income, if you have money and health, it's like being a kid again.
Okay.
Except you aren't worried about what you're going to do in adulthood. Like, people have told me you basically have 15 years to just enjoy life if you stay healthy. But at 75...
That also depends on you having a community around you, dude. Because we can't do it alone.
Yeah, that's true. You got to have friends. You got to have people who look out for you.
I hope to be there for you. I hope you're still around by the time I'm 60.
You know what? That'd be cool, especially if I can still be active. I'll be, what,
Yeah,
80,
84,
84?
82.
I don't know, dude. So I actually saw Stephen Breyer. He was a Supreme Court justice. I saw an interview with him on Book TV. Book TV is on C-SPAN. And they just interview people who published a book recently. And he was a Supreme Court justice, and he had written a book. And he was just giving an interview about it. It was like '07, maybe '06.
Okay.
Right? And I don't think somebody bought his book. But I don't know that, it wasn't like it made a big splash or whatever. But he was like giving this interview, and the dude was like on point. Like his brain had not turned to mush.
Okay.
And at the time, I had a job where I was working for a bank doing customer service and sales, and the average age of our customers, the median age of our customers was 62 years old. So I talked to a lot of folks who were like older, like senior citizens. And it seemed like the ones who kept on working, like they stayed mentally acute. But I would talk to people who stopped working when they were like 50.
As soon as they could.
Yeah, 50, 55. And like you're talking to them when they're 65 and you're having to repeat things, like they just cannot follow what you're telling them, even when what you're telling them is how much interest they've earned on their bank account. Like they're needing it. Okay, I got to write that down. Yeah, and here's this Supreme Court justice, I believe he was like 86, and he was still on point. And that's when I was like, you got to keep working. You got to find something to do, some kind of work you want to do,
Okay.
or things is going to go downhill.
Like Mary, when I was serving at IHOP, Mary was, I believe she was around 85, 86.
Uh-huh.
She had a quintuple bypass within, I think it was the last 4 years for her at that time. So now 9 years. And she was still smart. She was still a very moral character. She was still like awesome to talk to. And she was working. Yeah, her story for
Wasn't
working.
she working at a grocery store?
Yeah, her story for working was tragic. Basically, her husband had a stroke and rewrote his will on his deathbed and wrote her out of it.
I think the laws now in most places are such that you cannot write your spouse out of assets.
I don't recall the entire situation that she broke it down for me, but I believe her husband had died like 10, 15 years prior.
And she was basically having to work at the grocery store to keep a roof over her head.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal at all, but it was keeping her healthy.
And the thing is, after a quintuple bypass, what does that look like for someone?
Your chances of coming out of the hospital alive are minimal.
And like the docs told her beforehand, they were like, look, you could have a good 6-month run here, or we can do the surgery and then you die here.
Good Lord.
I seriously doubt her doctor.
Use the F word.
Yeah. We could do this surgery. I think odds are you'll make it out of it, but.
Yeah, with heart surgery, you don't know.
And basically what she had told me was she had smoked up until she was 40. And then all that shit about smoking, I believe it was coming out long before then, but it came out. And she understood it and everything. And she reevaluated if she wanted to keep smoking. And she was like, no. But the whole reason this woman didn't have anything was because she had done a traditional marriage where she married a man, he went to work, she raised the kids.
And she didn't work.
And yeah, they allowed him to rewrite his will.
So did she not work even after the kids were grown?
I don't know. I don't know why she had no money at that point. I believe she told me she never went to work because he just covered it. And like, why wouldn't you believe that?
Yeah, if that's how it's been for decades.
And she probably had menial jobs, like working at a grocery store, but she probably didn't have to do it as much as she could.
Any of us can get hit by a stroke at any time and lose our cognitive ability and then go make stupid decisions, seriously impact ourselves and those around us.
Yeah, I think he straight up donated it to something like the Red Cross.
And left her with nothing. And
Yeah.
the organization just took it.
That's not their responsibility.
I understand that, but man, that is still hardcore. Yeah, I think as soon as you have assets, if people are going to depend on those assets, you need to set up a trust for them and put the assets in the trust. And then, yeah, you can use the money and use the assets while you're alive, but when you die, it goes to them.
Okay.
Or if you become incapacitated, it goes to them.
Yeah,
Right?
she tried to fight it, but it didn't pan out her way.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're not incapacitated until the court rules that you are incapacitated. So you can be like off doing all that stuff until a judge says you're incompetent, which can take months.
And that would be used as evidence that you are incompetent. But after the fact, it's
But
just not
then
gonna
the
be
damage
changed.
is already done.
Yeah.
Anyway, a long way to say, if you keep active and actually keep a job, like some kind of work, like your brain can stick with it for a very long time. But in this, what it's basically showing is that after 65 or so, like after middle age, things start to fall off.
Yeah, a lot of these things.
The sunk cost resistance, I can tell you, as I've gotten older, I can tell you that I've gotten a lot better with that. And a lot of it, it's not so much, okay, on Wall Street, they call it chasing a loss.
Yeah.
It's where you've put all this money into this investment, into this stock, and it just keeps losing money. And instead of selling it, you're like, oh no, I got to hang on until my money comes back. But that can show up in all kinds of things in your life, in friendships, in a shitty job, friendships where people just keep screwing you over, quote, friendships. But I can tell you, like, as I've gotten older, I've gotten to where I just say, I don't have the fucking time to wait for this shit to turn around. And so I'm like, I'm just going to cut bait. I got other things to do. Part of it too, though, is I figure I can earn enough money to make up for any losses I take. And at some point, you might come to a point where you say, I don't have time to earn the money.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that when you're younger, you're more likely to think that way. You're more likely to think, what if I lose that money? But when you're older, you're more likely to say,
Okay. All right.
So it's actually kind of backward.
When you're younger, you're making less on average anyway.
Okay, sure.
What you lose is impactful. Because if you lost 50 grand this year, you wouldn't be happy about it, but
I wouldn't. But I also know that I'd make it up. I have every confidence I'll make it up over the next 20 years. But when
it's
you're
not
younger,
guaranteed at that point.
that's true. When you're only making 50K a year, you can't be sure you're ever going to be up in the 100, 200K a year range. You have to assume I'll probably only get to 60 or 75K a year. And then losing that 50K kind of becomes less recoverable. I guess the other thing too is I look at it as, even if I had oodles and oodles of money, the happiest things for me are still going to be going outside and going for walks and going for hikes and writing stories and writing music,
Meeting new people.
podcasting, hanging out with you.
Yeah.
No matter how much money I had, those would be the things that mattered most to me. So I guess I don't worry so much about the money as I do about
The time.
the useful quality time.
Yeah. Which is a little bit different from how you felt last week when we recorded this for a
Oh, I was
second time.
pissed. Yeah. I was like, I can't believe I wasted that time. But yeah. No, you pointed out to me, we had a good time. And if you had a good time,
Yeah, did we? Yeah, hopefully this one goes through.
yeah, because we got to get on to new subjects too.
That's why we're tangenting it so much, is because we've
We've kind of discussed this.
discussed all of these things twice.
Anyway, these researchers, they used weighted averaging on
Yeah.
this. And the weighted averaging you can kind of debate. Now, talking a little bit about their methodology, what they did was, it was a meta study where they looked at somewhere around 300 other studies that
Okay.
looked at intelligence and life knowledge and personality stuff. And then they came up with their own weighted average about what was most important. And you can see in the bottom right panel that what they said is all this mental acuity and everything looks like it peaks in middle age, right? And they said that your best decision making is actually going to come between age 40 and age 65. I don't know if that's true, really. I know a lot of people who are between 40 and 65, and I'm like, man, your decision making is trash. It's as trash as it was probably when you were a teenager. I've often said that age brings wisdom.
Maybe the
thing.
very worst things. I already killed him.
Yeah, the dumbest ones, the people who are making the stupidest decisions are dying off, Darwin Awards, or winding up in the clink and getting locked off from the rest of us. So on average, maybe the older are wiser, but it's really because the absolute dumbest filtered out. And back in the day when an accident could kill you, like by 18, you better be smart. You better have some wisdom at 18. Now we say, oh, 18 isn't an adult. 20 isn't an adult. 25 isn't it. 30 isn't an adult.
Have you heard 30 is?
Oh, I've seen people arguing, oh, your brain doesn't actually fully mature till 35. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So we shouldn't treat anybody under 35 as an adult. Now, I'm like, so now childhood should extend to age 35? Are you insane? I'm just kind of, if you think somebody isn't an adult, go pay their bills. Go take responsibility for their decision. Make sure there's a roof over their head. And when they fuck up, you got to pay for their lawyer too, and their fines. And if you ain't willing to do that, no other argument you make has any validity. Nothing else you say matters. If you ain't willing to take responsibility for somebody, then you don't get to weigh in on whether they're an adult or not.
Yeah.
The day you turn 18, you're an adult. You got to take ownership of yourself. No one else is going to do it. No one else can do it. And if you don't, you're going to pay a price all your life. And no one's going to save you from that. No one can save you from that. And in fact, the sooner you start taking ownership of yourself, even if you are technically a minor, the sooner you take ownership for your growth, your knowledge, your skills, the direction your life is going, the better your future is going to be. But anyway, they make this argument that all this knowledge and skills and all that peaks at middle age. And I understand their methodology and their opinion, but ultimately it looks to me like it's all really flat, 18 to 65. And then it begins to fall off around retirement age. But to be honest, I don't know if that's a biological phenomenon. It might very well be that just people get pushed out of the workforce and everything else at age 65. We have all these stereotypes about age, that older people can't do this, older people can't do that. And I think a lot of people probably internalize that. They imbibe that and they don't fight it. And as a result, they start taking on those stereotype traits.
Yeah. And I've seen videos of 70-year-olds picking up 300 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw a video of a 91 and he was deadlifting like 140. And the guy looked like he didn't even weigh 100 pounds. And obviously that's a huge exception. But
yeah, those are both huge exceptions.
Wouldn't you love it if you could have the strength?
But you're just going to say for the last 15 to 20 years of your life, you're fucking useless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
And that isn't an argument that 65 and up, we need to get them back in the workforce.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm saying life is whatever they want to fucking make it. If they want to work, they can work. If they want to go ski into their old age, go climb mountains, they still, I believe, at least from that 65 to 70, most people's bodies should be capable of doing that.
So I went to the Frankie Valli concert. Have you seen like the TikTok videos and stuff of Frankie Valli?
No.
You know who he was? Frankie Valli.
If it was a concert, then I'm guessing he was a singer.
Yeah, he was a singer. Oh, what a night. Late December back in 63. What a very special time for me. What a lady, what a night.
So he's singing about being an adult in 63.
They were singing in the 50s.
Whoa!
Off the top of my head, I can't remember, like, many others of its songs. Grease. Sherry, baby, Sherry. Okay. Anyway, I went and saw him at Mystic Lake, 91 years old. All these boomers were there, older boomers. They were like, I feel so sorry for you young kids. We had the best music. Your music now, it's just terrible. compared to our music, it's awful. We had the best music.
Okay.
The thing is, it was all
I'm
ages.
glad they were getting out there, dude.
Dude, you know what? Yeah. What I'm like is, it's if you're breathing, it's not too late. You know?
Okay.
People on TikTok were making fun of him because, he was coming out, and you could tell that he was either lip syncing or there was a whole lot of auto-tuning to his old voice. Yeah, but he was like 90-something years old, and he's up there. And people on TikTok, the comments were like, this is elder abuse. Let him retire. He should be at home sitting there with his blanket watching Family Feud. And I'm just like, meanwhile, when he gave an interview, he was like, look, I intend to die on stage. And the thing is, before that concert, like, I had been thinking, I want to try to make music. I wish I could play a musical instrument. But then I would think to myself, I'm too old. I'm 46. I'll never be able to pick it up. I'll never be able to do that. And then I went and saw that concert, and I was like, you know what? Fuck that shit. If he can get up there at 91, to be honest, he got up there and he gave an hour-and-a-half long concert. There was a break, about 20 minutes, where I'm sure they went back there and drank water and took a leak and everything else. Maybe he had to change his diaper. I don't know. He got up there. He was up there for 90 minutes, like, giving this concert. And he's up there. People are singing with him. People are playing music with him. He's just up there having fun with other people who just wanted to be there. And there also was, it's pretty well known that he was a gambler and he had a lot of debts. So people would always joke, he's still paying off those gambling debts. Who knows? Maybe. But I was just like, if he can get up there and do that.
Dude, I don't think anyone's collecting from a 91.
But I was just like, if he can get up there and do that, then surely I, at half the age, can at least learn to play one song, can at least write one song and learn some chords and play it and sing it. And I did it. And it only took me a few months to put together the first one. So what I'm like is, whatever those stereotypes about age are, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
You go live your life. You go do those things. Like, our ancestors going back 300,000 years, if we're talking about the origination of farming and all that, like, they built this civilization, this industrialized society for us so that we don't have to slog away and slave away and just travail beneath the yoke for 30 or 40 years until we die of dysentery. We have this because they gave that to us. And don't fucking waste that shit. You get out there and you live your life and you chase your dreams till the moment that life is taken from you. Don't waste their sacrifice. Don't waste their work. And don't waste your chance, because you only get in one. Maybe you believe in reincarnation, and maybe that's true. Maybe we all going to get reincarnated, but you don't know that. The only thing you know for sure is that you got this one. You got this one chance to chase your dreams. So get out there and fucking do it. Anyway.
On to the next, my friend.
Right.
Okay, all right. This is a image of some healthy coral. I want to talk about what kind of went down in the Florida coastal reefs out in 2023.
Okay.
So this is an image of some healthy elkhorn in the bottom right here, Acropora palmata.
Okay.
And then
On the
bottom,
that's elkhorn?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the top left is going to be staghorn, which is Acropora cervicornis.
Okay. And these are corals?
Yes. These are the main structural coral that existed in the Florida coastal reefs.
Okay.
And currently they exist from about that Miami area
Okay.
down to the Biscayne region.
Okay.
Miami, Broward, down to Biscayne.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to talk about is the 9th mass bleaching event that occurred in the Florida coral reef
Okay.
back in 2023. So this is what bleached coral looks like. Obviously, you can see there's some staghorn here. And those white tips, that means they've ejected the symbiotic algae that live on the surface of them.
Okay.
Right? And what the algae does is it provides a protective layer to this coral, and it also provides some oxygenation.
Now wait, that previous slide we saw,
Yes.
that is not bleached coral. That's healthy?
Yep.
Okay, so that's what it looks like when it's in its healthy state. Brown and...
It's some white, some yellow, some brown. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
And then here you can see it's bleached white. That's why they say bleaching.
Okay.
And this is actually the natural color of its flesh. It's the algae that gives it color.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, so the algae, it provides a protective barrier, protects them from diseases, and then it provides
Oxygenation, yeah.
oxygenation.
So coral, you could say it's almost kind of like lichen, where the lichen is like, it's a fungus with houses an algae.
Vegetation.
It houses an algae. And so you have this symbiotic kind of relationship.
It's the same thing here.
So the
Similar.
coral gives it a place to live and kind of protects it from the elements. And then it gives the coral protection from other microbes. And it increases the oxygen level. Okay, let me get some power to this light over here.
And then the difference there.
Hold on.
All right, dude.
The people cannot see you, dude.
They can't see you either. So the difference there is that,
Coral is an animal.
anyways, all coral, kind of all living things, they have a range of temperatures that they can survive comfortably in. The way scientists have been measuring the temperatures for coral is based off of sea surface temperatures at night. They take satellite images, I believe, infrared images, and they measure what the sea surface temperature is.
Okay.
And for these particular coral, it's 30.4 for the elkhorn and 30.5 for the staghorn
Okay.
degrees Celsius.
And that is the usual temperature?
That's the maximum they can survive.
Okay.
That's where you can expect an individual to be alive in the next year.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a comfortable temperature for them,
Not optimal.
but they're not going to bleach.
Okay.
And bleaching is a process of the coral itself ejecting the algae around it. And you might ask, if the algae provides all this for the coral, why would it eject it? What happens above those temperatures is the algae begin producing what's called reactive oxygen species, which is things like diatomic singlet oxygen.
Okay.
So diatomic oxygen, that's the normal oxygen that you and I breathe, but that's actually triplet diatomic oxygen. And that's diatomic oxygen at its most stable state.
Okay.
It actually takes something to split that apart. It has a lot of energy that it can provide you, but your body has to do something to it to get it to react.
Sure.
Versus singlet oxygen, where if that just makes contact with your skin, it's going to react.
Okay. Sure.
So it will never make it to your blood. It will never make it to your mitochondria.
Okay. Okay. So I can tell you, within your body, part of the electron transport chain in your mitochondria, you do produce reactive oxygen species.
Okay.
Ideally, they should get reacted with hydrogen
Okay.
before they, but part of the reason, you've heard of antioxidants.
Yeah.
Okay? So vitamin C, tons of other things, right? What they will do is they'll absorb reactive oxygen species.
Okay.
And then the thing is, you want to keep those reactive oxygen species from hitting other things in your cell, from damaging other organelles, or even worse, slipping into the nucleus and damaging your DNA.
Right.
So the idea is you want to have other molecules floating around that can absorb them.
Other molecules that fall within reactive oxygen species, other than singlet oxygen, is going to be a bunch of bites.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the algae starts producing these reactive oxygen species, and the coral eject.
Because it's going to damage the coral. So it's sorry you got to go.
Yeah. But that's not healthy for the coral. The coral
Right.
depend on the algae to survive. If an individual goes through a bleaching event, right, where they eject the algae, part of its long-term survival is dependent on the reintroduction of algae to its surface. Sometimes they don't. Okay. And even in cases where the coral do have algae reintroduced to its body, they suffer from years of mitigated growth.
So it's like on Star Trek, when the warp core is going into a cascading reaction, it's going to explode and destroy the ship. And so they eject the warp core.
Okay.
And then the warp core flies out and it explodes and it shakes the ship and everybody gets rocked around and everything. And they all live, but now they're dead in the water. They can't go nowhere until they get a new warp core.
Okay, I'll take that.
And so that's what this is. It's like the algae are the warp core.
It goes beyond that, because even after they get the warp core back, right, with the Star Trek ship, if they get the warp core back, imagine they're back to ripping and burning.
Yeah, they got to just make it work.
They're going to get back to what they do. The coral, they suffer for a long time. They suffer for years. They grow less. They're more susceptible to disease. And they can't reproduce for a very long time after a bleaching event. And in 2023, the Florida coral reef experienced the worst it's ever seen. Scientists and conservationists have been tracking acropora coral.
The structural coral.
Since the early 80s. I believe 86 is when it got totally officiated. And it's because they are the structural coral. It's what provides a space for everything else to live, like fish, other corals, right? And the elkhorn in particular protects beaches.
Okay.
Right?
Does it do that?
So you got the beach, right? You got the initial drop off into the water, and then you got the slope, and then you got like this normal seabed. The elkhorn exists right here, right off the beach.
Okay.
And it prevents erosion on
The beach. Okay.
Yeah. And the elkhorn, it does well in this sloped region. Not
So-
the elkhorn, the staghorn.
Okay. Gotcha.
In that sloped region.
Oh, okay.
So that staghorn is going to prevent some erosion from that level that the elkhorn is at, right? But you need both.
Okay.
We give more credit to elkhorn, the scientists do. And I'm not anybody to question that.
Sure, yeah, they've been studying it.
Yeah.
The staghorn, in my opinion, is prettier.
Yeah, I think the staghorn's prettier, but the ugly guy's doing the work.
I was going to say, as in real life, as my life shows, the less good looking among us are the ones who make the world work.
In 2023, you saw the worst bleaching event in the Florida coral reefs. And from the upper Keys down to dry Tortugas, they are functionally extinct. And what functionally extinct means is that they are either not there entirely,
Completely wiped.
extirpated, I believe is the term they use, or they're there, but they're in so few numbers that they don't really provide to the ecosystem that they exist in anymore. In the upper Keys, you saw a death rate of 97.8%.
Okay.
And then from the middle Keys down, they saw a 100% death rate for both the staghorn and the elkhorn. And the tragedy on top of that tragedy is that 80% of the colonies that were there, they had introduced nursed individuals to help these colonies regrow from previous bleaching events. Over the past 20 years, scientists and conservationists have been desperately trying to prevent this from happening in the Keys down, in all of the Florida coral reef. But this is just where we're at now.
So, with the death of these corals, the reason it was important to keep reintroducing them. First, there was the ecological reason that if they go, the other species in those reefs are also going to go. The reefs themselves will go.
They're going to change massively, yeah.
Okay.
Right now, they're basically, it's like sponges that are surviving right now,
Okay.
which don't provide much for any.
They don't provide anything structural. And then the other thing is they hold up the beaches.
Yeah,
So
like the mangroves.
when the skeletons of those corals are gone, which we can assume won't take very long. It's
Yeah,
just
I don't even think they're there now, to be honest with you.
it's just if you drop a body in the ocean, like that skeleton isn't going to last very long.
It's going to get
Eaten and dissolved away. So you also lose, you're going to start seeing much higher rates of erosion across every beach throughout the Keys. Okay. And that's why they were reintroducing them in the past.
They didn't outright say that, but I do believe that is why. Because they seem to have a significant fund going to them. And simply put, ecological conservationism, it don't get funding unless it has a fucking reason. At least not state funding. And yeah, they're funded by the state. Like I said, these bleaching events leave them infertile for a long time. So what they've been doing is developing into
Are they infertile just because it takes that long after the algae come back?
for them to be sexually active, yeah. To be sexually viable. They can clone themselves, but I don't even know if during that time how effective cloning themselves is. So they've been nursing individuals off the coast, right? Inland. And they've been introducing these individuals during good years where they can become sexually active and then grow out these coral reefs. At this point, that just isn't going to happen anymore because it's not going to be enough anymore.
Sure.
And another thing that made 2023 so devastating was that you saw temperatures for days reach above a 3 to 4 degree delta above that, right? Which causes rapid death where it starts, the coral itself starts sloughing off tissue. They basically get cooked alive. And that is why it was so devastating. That is why 98 to 100%.
Okay, so it's not just expulsion of
the algae.
it's that if it gets too hot.
There was a lot of immediate death too. Yeah.
Okay. And at what temperature do you start seeing that immediate death?
3 to 4 degrees above where they can survive. And the reason why they make that distinction of what's its normal, why don't they just say above 33 degrees? Why don't they just say that? It's because in different parts of the world, different sea surface temperatures mean something different for the coral below it.
Okay.
Sometimes those coral are more resistant, and sometimes they get cooler temperatures under there. Off of the Florida coast, that bottom temperature where the coral live is actually usually higher than sea surface temperatures.
Okay.
Because the beaches heat up the water, and that water ends up more salic and denser, and then it sinks and heats up the coral.
Oh, because it's absorbing minerals from the land. Okay, from the sand.
And it's also important to note that they're taking these temperatures at night so that they don't get like little anomalies caused by solar heating. They don't even think that this is actually what the peak was. When you're talking about coral survival, they use the measurement degree heating weeks, which is where they say for a length of time, they multiply by the number of weeks, the temperature was above that 30.4 to 30.5. Right?
Above maximum temperature where they can live indefinitely.
So if in this area you see a 1 degree delta over the course of 12 weeks, that is a 12 degree heating week.
Okay.
And everything they measure is in Celsius. And for the staghorn and the elkhorn, 95% mortality occurs at 17.6 and 17.7 degree heating weeks. In the Florida Keys, each 16.3 to 20.4 degrees Celsius heating weeks, with a mean of 18.2 plus or minus about a half, and 18.1 plus or minus about a sixth of a degree.
And that's over a period of 12 weeks.
Like I said, it was 1.5 degrees above.
Except we're talking 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
So it's 3 degrees
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit
Yeah.
above the temperature that we know they can live at indefinitely. So to give you an idea, so let me just give an idea of what this would be like in terms of a human being.
Okay.
Have you ever heard the term wet bulb temperature?
Nope.
Okay. So if you have a thermometer and it's just dry and it's just sitting out there, that's your dry bulb. And so when we say how hot is it, right? We're saying stand out there with that dry thermometer and just tell me what the temperature is. Let's say it's 100 degrees. However, there's some humidity in the air, and that humidity can create this variance.
Okay.
You could have 10% humidity, you could have 90%, you could have 100% humidity at 100 degrees.
Okay.
Right? So what you could then say is, okay, I take this thermometer and I wrap it in like a paper towel and secure it on there with a rubber band, spray that paper towel down, super wet, and then put it on the end of a string and swing it around. It's like you got wind blowing on it, it's wet, that water is going to evaporate, and the temperature that you're measuring is going to go down. And the lower the humidity is outside,
The bigger temperature delta.
the more the temperature is going to go down. So that's called wet bulb temperature.
Okay.
That's the equivalent of you sweating. So what you need is for the temperature, in order to maintain your life, you need to be able to cool your body basically down to 100 degrees.
Okay.
You could say your average temperature day to day when you're healthy is probably around 97, maybe 98. You can run a fever at 102 and you're not going to be doing all that great. You won't feel like doing a whole lot. It's because all the proteins in your body, the way a protein folds is temperature dependent. So when you run a fever, the idea is that these bacteria that are living in you that are evolved to survive well at your body temperature, your body gets a little too hot for them to be able to reproduce quickly enough. And hopefully your body is more able to attack them than they reproduce. So with wet bulb temperature, that is how much you could cool yourself down to by natural means.
Okay.
If that wet bulb temperature is above 102, humans cannot survive at that,
Okay.
like without having some way to cool yourself down.
Okay.
So the coral, they don't have a way to cool themselves down. So the equivalent would be if you are outside all the time and it's 115 degrees.
Right.
It's not survivable. You are not going to live through that. You need to be able to cool yourself down. And they can't. They have no way to do it.
And in 2023, they saw BHWs, so that 12-week span, 3 times higher since they've been measuring since 1986.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, than any other year. And in fact, they go on to say that it is likely the hottest July-August period in that area in 150 years. And essentially, this paper was pretty doom and gloom, but they do put out some hope. Currently, they're keeping these individuals alive
Some individuals.
inland,
Okay. Basically like in aquariums. Okay.
and they're also gene banking them, so keeping copies of their DNA.
Okay.
Right. And what they're eventually hoping is that either A, there can be a type that is more resistant to these heating events, because they believe within the next 20 years, by 2040, that these bleaching events will happen every year. And
At which point you can't,
it's impossible.
even putting in new colonies
That
won't matter.
Yeah. And even having a couple days where the temperature is 3 to 4 degrees above, that's going to cause that rapid die-off.
Okay.
It's like you getting flashed into a 160-degree pot.
You're going to lose flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Yeah, your chance of survival is terrible.
Yeah. So they're hoping that eventually they can reintroduce these guys. And they're going to keep them alive until that point. For as long as they can, at least. But yeah, by 2040, they estimate that these bleaching events will occur yearly. And then within the next 20 years, half of the species in the Atlantic of these structural building coral will be extinct.
extinct in the wild. So they'll only be alive in captivity. Wow.
Yeah, dude, it's not gleaming well for the Acropora.
So is there any estimate about how long the keys themselves actually survive?
I don't know that they don't outright state in this paper
Okay.
whether or not it is. They do say it's structurally significant, but they don't say that it's.
The end of the road, yeah, it would be outside of their. Yeah.
They're not saying it's the keystone that keep these islands going.
Okay. Because what I'm like is hurricanes keep getting more numerous and stronger.
And that also kills off these corals.
So it kills the coral and it increases erosion. So you're not only losing more off of the islands themselves, you're permanently losing your ability to keep.
At least some
The
of your
islands
ability to keep it. But I think it's super worthwhile that they are trying to keep these guys alive.
That's actually why it's imperative that we keep moving on climate change. We keep moving to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, even though we have not gotten it to go the right way. In 2020, things went the right way. And when you saw basically at all the COVID lockdowns globally, right? And nature rebounded very fast, much faster than like any researchers thought it would. Nature rebounds very quickly when you stop the destruction. So I personally believe if we can get emissions to be zero, if we can just get to zero, and then we can have reforestation, then all of this turns around. And I think it turns around much faster than anybody expects. I'm an optimist. You know that. I'm a natural optimist.
There are fungi that consume the radiation as an energy source. There are fungi that live off of the radiation, away from sunlight.
What I want to know is what type of radiation they're actually consuming.
We got
what?
a moment, man.
You know what? Next episode. Don't look it up right now.
Okay.
Okay? Talk about that next episode, which we may shoot in a couple days.
Okay, all right. I'll look it up, man.
Yeah.
The reason why I chose this is because it was topical. They just released this paper, their analysis on this mass die-off on October 23rd.
So just a couple weeks ago.
It was 2 days after our first shoot.
Man, we have lost some time. But I think this recorded correctly this time. Yeah.
Okay, I want to see anything. If there was any point that I missed. And even the coral that are off coast, that aren't anywhere near. Because they don't just exist here and here. They exist here too.
Okay.
And they don't just exist off the coast, like immediately off the beach, or in that sloping region. They exist beyond that sloping region.
Out on the bed.
Like the open sea, yeah.
Okay.
They saw mortality rates at 38%, which means all of those individuals are stressed right now. But they are there, they are alive.
Okay. So if they are alive out there, then if you have a return of normal climate, they will spread back up.
Yeah.
It'll be slow.
And in the Broward, Miami region, that both of the coral did okay. They both
survived it.
Yeah. The staghorn's a little more resistant. It only had about a death rate about 20%.
Okay.
And then the elkhorn had a death rate of about 45.
Oh, wow. That's still a lot.
If you go to the degree heating weeks, it's significant. There's a significant difference between them in the middle. But at the top end, they have a basically ultimate death rate that is equal to each other.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So there is some hope here if we can, but we have to turn this CO2 thing around.
Yes.
Okay.
And dude, 20 years of your life. And it's over 20 years. It's just, it got formalized.
20 years of work.
Yeah.
That just goes downhill.
It's gone.
Just vanishes.
Completely vanished.
Woof.
I'm feeling for you. I'm hearing I'm feeling for you, Derek Munzel at all.
Any other final comments?
One of the biggest mistakes that we've made as a society is saying that climate change is for the animals that are around and live with us. That fighting against that is for them. It's not for them. Because life will persist. Life will survive. No matter what we fucking do to this planet. But we can make it so it's uninhabitable for ourselves.
Yeah, we can make it so that human beings cannot thrive. And possibly not even survive.
The way it's going right now, like, we do nothing. Within the next 100 years, end game for us. The maximum load that this planet will be able to take is 1 billion humans, which is an eighth of where we're at now. Take 7 of the 8 people and just kill them, dude.
Yeah.
The way climate change is going right now, the amount of space on Earth that will be habitable for us and be able to reap enough crops will be reduced to the point where only about 1 billion humans will be able to survive.
So that's about what the population was in 1900.
But
honestly, I think with the way birth rates are falling, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the ultimate number humanity gets back to is 1 billion. Because a lot of it is just when people have other options, they don't want to spend their whole life taking care of kids. The other thing is, even people who want to have kids can't fucking afford it. Just in Western nations, like wealthiest societies that have ever existed, people can't afford to raise a child. What is it, South Korea? Right now, the birth rate is 0.6 children per woman. That's the fertility rate. In the US, it's 1.6, well below replacement level.
right,
And it's literally because resources are not allocated for the care of children.
right.
Public resources are being allocated away from the care of children. And the irony is, take people like Elon Musk, who says, oh, it's this terrible thing. He says, oh, people need to have more kids. Verbally, he says that. But he does not support one single public policy that would actually make it healthier for kids, that would make it better for kids, that would make it more affordable for parents to have kids. He does not support one single meaningful policy that would do that. Every policy he supports is about putting money in his pocket and ending investigations of his companies. So all these people who are out there saying, oh, people need to have more kids, it's the end of Western civilization, blah, 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 motherfucking blah, blah, blah. Nothing they say means anything because they do not support a single policy, not even one. You need to have better education for those kids. You need to have better health care for those kids. You need to have housing programs that make people in their 20s able to afford a house in a good neighborhood where you can safely raise kids. And they do not support a single policy that would lead to
And
that.
these are the same kinds of people that are stonewalling the emergency funds for SNAP benefits.
1 out of 8 people in this country needs help getting enough food to get through the month. 1 out of 8 people. And their solution is to say, starve them out. I'm going to tell you, that's a risky policy.
What has happened in the past when people start
Yeah,
where kids stop eating? What happens?
You go without, when people want to say, oh, I'm so good, I could never harm any, go without food for 3 days. You'll do anything. You'll do anything for a piece of bread. You'll steal food right out of a baby's hands. But if you haven't eaten for 3-4 days, oh, yes, you will. Anybody who says they would not,
No, I didn't.
they've never gone hungry. When you talk about the Arab Spring, where all these authoritarian governments across North Africa and the Middle East were seeing massive protests collapsing. Algeria, Libya, Egypt. You had the beginning of one in Syria. Syria would have collapsed if Putin hadn't basically put in the entire Russian military into rescuing Assad's regime. It started as food riots. People were hungry. What happened, and a lot of that was just because in the U.S., we started putting lots and lots of money into converting corn into ethanol. And it pushed up food prices throughout the world, particularly in the third world, right? And of course, you had some crop failures and everything else that contributed in the moment. But all these places started collapsing because people just literally did not have enough food. When people are hungry, they don't care about nothing else. They don't care about the Constitution or, oh, we got to uphold the integrity of the government. No, all they care about is getting food in their stomach. And so food aid is the price of civilization. And it's a damn low price. You're talking about $10 billion a month to feed an eighth of the population. That's pocket change for our government. And when you talk about the overall economy, it's a pittance. You can say we're just going to be tough and harsh and cruel or whatever to these. When these people revolt, what are you going to do then? The other thing is the folks who are receiving food stamps, they're doing the shit work. They're in the shelves. The whole reason, like I can say, oh, I make a lot of money or I make more money than the average person or whatever. But the only reason that money has any value is because somebody is stocking the shelves at Walmart. Somebody's driving the truck for Amazon. Without those people doing that work, your money is worth approximately zero. Your wonderful house and your property, they ain't worth shit unless somebody else is making the world work for you. So for people to sit in their ivory tower or their fucking mansion and say, oh, fuck those people, you know what? They are the problem. They are the idiots. Their money actually isn't worth anything. The person who's stocking the shelves.
Their work is worth something.
Yes. Anyway, that's my rant. That's my diatribe.
Oh.
Tom Colicchio, what he said is anybody who wants to cut food stamps is pro-hunger. What he basically said is, yeah,
who does fucking food stamps hurt?
Nobody.
Fucking nobody, dude.
Nobody.
All it does is keeps money out of the hands of the very wealthiest people and gives it to the people who fucking spend it.
It's a minuscule amount of money for them, too. Okay, if you take what Bill Gates, what his fortune is worth $100 billion, that would cover food stamps for more than a year. No, actually, my math is off. Not even a full year. But
you're talking about one fucking guy.
One fucking person.
For 300 million people. 350?
Right. Yeah, it could basically feed 40 million people for a year.
40 out of 300 million. But you get what I meant.
And we're going to say, oh, but it's more important that we have a system that makes sure he never pays taxes and that we back up the banks that give him his loans. And it's so important that we do that we are willing to starve actual human beings for the sake of that piss-ass fortune. You know what? These people's priorities are just utter fucking trash.
I believe you, dude. I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. This shit's fucking stupid. This shit needs to...
Yeah.
It ain't gonna go on long.
And the other thing is, those food stamps, they aren't going as just like cash to people. It has to get spent off. That's money that goes to farmers.
And,
it goes to...
Second off, what the fuck do I care what they use their EBT for? What the fuck do I care they spend their money on? So they can... anyone who says they fucking spend it on junk food and trash anyway, let them fucking enjoy their lives. Like, you're not fucking eating trash.
Yeah, what few things they have to enjoy. The money is going to farmers, to bakers, to truck drivers. You know what I'm saying?
Every one of those dollars that gets spent, you end up reaping the fucking benefit for anyway. Unless you don't fucking work. Unless
Right.
you literally have no
Okay.
involvement in the economy whatsoever, that doesn't benefit you.
Here's the thing. If you're sitting there as a big stock owner or shareholder or you have this huge fortune, some of that money, those profits, they filter up to you anyway.
I'm talking about the unemployed motherfuckers that have no money anyway.
Okay, so yeah,
You could make an argument that they don't benefit from it, but they're the ones that need the fucking EBT.
they're the ones it's there for. The other thing is, if you take somebody who's unemployed, who's poor, and you say, we're not going to give them any medical benefits, any housing, any food, it doesn't take long for that person to become permanently disabled. permanently unable to work. The average time someone can live on the streets is 3 years.
That's more than I expected.
Most people will be dead after 3 years of homelessness. If you have somebody who can't work or who is out of work for a while, and they go without food, go without healthy food for a few months, go without a roof over their head for a few months, there's a very strong chance that they're going to become medically disabled and never be able to work again. So then you are going to pay benefits to that person for the rest of your life. And you'll say, we just won't give them disability benefits. Well, if that person winds up in prison, you're going to be paying $60,000 a year to house them in prison.
Because they don't pay for that shit themselves anyway. They make the fucking prisoners work, and then they take fucking subsidies on making the prison run.
Right.
Meanwhile, they're raking in money from these prisoners' work.
And the thing is, if you aren't willing to give even food assistance to people, you're going to make them unable to do any kind of work at all. Hungry people can't do productive work.
One, they're only thinking about one fucking thing. Two, have you working out fasted versus not fasted? Even just a 12-hour fast. And you notice a difference. You notice a stark difference.
Yeah, your ability to even get an hour-long workout in is just plummets. Yeah. Wow, that was quite the
dude, we
digression.
got fucking angry there.
That was a rant. Yeah. Anyway, food stamps, climate change.
Did you want to hop into AI or?
No, we've been talking for 2 hours now?
Yeah, it seems like no matter what we do, the 3-hour deal.
All right. We're going to end it now. We went through our comments.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about Splatitouille, the Chicago rat hole.
Yes.
We talked about aging, continuing to work as you get older, developing talents throughout your lifespan, how it appears that cognitive ability may start to decline after 65, but we also said, hey, that might be actually a result of social conditioning. And then you discuss coral.
The Florida coral reefs being forever changed.
But also reasons why it may be recoverable, which we have to hope it is. Yeah. So on that note, I believe the ideal life is a nonstop process of learning and growing. Thanks for learning and growing with us. Stay on your game, and we'll see you next time on Everybuddies Podcast.
Hell yeah, dude.
Good job, man.